There are people in this world who have always felt different, not better, not special in the way the world defines special, just different, like they were built for something they couldn't name, like there was a weight on their life that others around them didn't seem to carry, like no matter how far they ran from a certain path, that path kept finding them. If that is you, this is not a coincidence. And this video is not for everyone. This video is for the chosen ones who don't yet know they are chosen. There was a young man named Elijah, 28 years old, quiet, thoughtful, the kind of person who felt things deeply and questioned everything, including himself. Elijah had grown up in a modest home with a grandmother named Ada who prayed over him every single morning without fail. Every morning before school, every morning before he left the house. Every morning she would place her hand on his head and say the same thing. Lord, let this child fulfill the purpose you placed in him before he was formed. Elijah used to find it embarrassing. He was a teenager. He didn't want prayers, he wanted breakfast. But Ada never stopped, because Ada knew something about Elijah that Elijah did not yet know about himself. She had seen it the moment he was born. A child who came into the world not crying, but looking, eyes open, still. As if he already understood that he had arrived somewhere important. Ada believed with everything in her that this child had been chosen before he took his first breath, and she spent her entire life making sure he did not forget it. Being chosen by God does not look the way most people imagine. It does not come with a crown. It does not come with immediate clarity or a voice from the sky or a burning certainty that removes all doubt. It comes quietly. It comes through the texture of your life, through the things that break your heart that don't break other people's hearts. Through the problems you cannot walk past without wanting to solve them. Through the gift that keeps showing up no matter how many times you try to ignore it. Being chosen means you were assigned a specific work before you arrived here. Not a job title, not a career, a work. Something that only you, with your specific history, your specific wounds, your specific way of seeing the world, can do in the way it needs to be done. Elijah felt this as a pull he could never fully explain. Toward people who were struggling. Toward words, he had always had a way with words that surprised even himself. Toward the broken places in communities that others walked past without seeing. He didn't know what to do with it. So for years he did nothing with it. But the pull never left. How do you know if you are chosen? Not in arrogance, not in pride, but in honest recognition of what God has placed inside you. The first sign is that you have always carried more than your age. Even as a child, Elijah was the one people brought their problems to. The one who felt the weight of things that children are not supposed to feel yet. The one who understood pain at an age when understanding pain is not normal. That is not a burden placed on you randomly. That is preparation. The weight you carried early was building the capacity you would need later. The second sign is that your pain has always had purpose woven through it. Every chosen person carries wounds. Not wounds that destroy, wounds that teach. Wounds that create the specific empathy and understanding needed to reach the specific people they were sent to reach. Elijah had grown up watching his father struggle with addiction. It had broken him as a boy. But it had also given him something no classroom could ever teach, an understanding of what shame feels like from the inside. What it feels like to love someone you cannot save. What it feels like to need grace desperately and not know where to find it. That wound was not an accident. That wound was a qualification. The third sign is that the gift keeps returning no matter how many times you walk away from it. You can ignore a chosen path. You can choose a different career, a different city, a different life. But the gift follows you. The calling finds you in new places wearing new clothes asking the same question it always asked. When are you going to do what you were made to do? The question Elijah eventually asked Ada, sitting at her kitchen table at 28 years old, the same table where she had prayed over him 1,000 times, was this. Grandma, why would God choose someone before they are even born? Before they have done anything to deserve it? Ada set down her cup of tea, and she said something that stayed with Elijah for the rest of his life. She said, because the work he needs done is too important to leave to chance. He doesn't choose you because of what you have done. He chooses you because of what he has already placed inside you. The choosing comes first. The becoming comes after. God chooses before birth because the assignment requires preparation that takes an entire lifetime. The wounds you carry, chosen before birth so you would understand the people you are sent to. The gifts you were born with, chosen before birth so you would have what the work requires. The family you were born into, the struggles you were born through, the place you were born in, none of it was random. All of it was curriculum. All of it was preparation for a work that only you can do. Elijah spent most of his 20s ignoring what Ada had planted in him. He took a comfortable job. He built a comfortable life. He told himself he was being practical, responsible, realistic. But something followed him into every comfortable room he entered. A restlessness he could not medicate. A sense that he was always slightly off stage from his own life. That he was watching himself live a life that fit well enough, but was not his. The chosen always feel this when they are living outside their purpose. Not misery necessarily, just a persistent quiet wrongness. The feeling of wearing clothes that almost fit, of speaking a language that almost sounds like your own, because you were not built for almost, you were built for exactly, and your soul knows the difference even when your mind has convinced itself otherwise. Ada passed away when Elijah was 31. At her funeral he stood up to speak, and what came out of him that day was not a eulogy. It was a sermon. Not planned, not prepared. It simply poured out of him the way water pours from something that has been filled for a long time and finally tipped. People wept. Strangers came to him afterward with their hands extended and their eyes full, asking questions, sharing things they had never shared with anyone. And standing there, in a small church on an ordinary Tuesday, Elijah understood what Ada had been praying over him every single morning of his life. She had not been praying for him to be comfortable. She had been praying for him to be ready. He spent the rest of his life doing the work he was built for. Not perfectly. Not without struggle. But faithfully. And fully. That is what I want for you today. Not comfort. Not the almost life. Not the practical safe version of yourself that fits neatly into other people's expectations. I want you to hear what Ada said to Elijah, and receive it as if it were said directly to you. You were not born by accident. You were not placed here randomly. Before you took your first breath, something was already placed inside you that this world needs. The wounds you carry are not evidence that you were forgotten. They are evidence that you were trusted with something that required them. The gift that keeps returning no matter how far you run, that is not a coincidence. That is a calling, and it has been calling your name since before you were born. It is time to answer it. If this found you at the right moment today, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that their life has purpose beyond what they can currently see. Subscribe to Ancient Wisdom and stay close. Real conversations every single week. Take care of yourself. And walk boldly into the purpose you were chosen for.